Hi, everyone. I've got Lisa back today, and we're going to talk about Saturn and the cube. I've been wanting to do something like this for a very long time. I mention it in my presentations. I talk about Saturn briefly. I don't really go deep into it, but that's what we're going to do now. So, hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good, fantastic. So, let's go right into it. Which one do you want me to add, the first or the second one?
Oh, I was gonna say, can I add them or
Oh, yeah, yeah, you can do it.
yeah, I was gonna say I can just do it myself. Before I even get into Saturn, I'm going to do because this is gonna be an excellent presentation, by the way. Um, Real quick, right before I start talking about Saturn, I'm going to get into this is just one brief, or actually two brief paragraphs of a little bit of psychology for your viewers. It's about truth. I actually can I share it?
I have to share it.
Oh, okay, good.
But you
Perfect.
can
And I
control it.
can I can control. Excellent. Okay. I'm just going to get into this real quick because a lot of times when people see certain videos or they see things on, well, not too many people watch the news, but you hear information from content creators, you look stuff up on your own, and a lot of stuff can be sketchy. For example, that whole thing in what was it? Where in the mall, when they were setting off fireworks and everybody thought there was aliens coming. Where was that?
Miami.
Miami. That's it. But nobody really knows what is plausible information. There's just a lot of information from a lot of different sources. So I just wanted to get into this real quick. This is a brief psychology on how to determine truth. Okay, I actually wrote this up myself. This is pretty decent. All right, what is it share? It's sharing on your screen, right? Oh, the screen. Okay. What is truth? The most commonly understood definition of the word truth is something that is real or actual, something that is factual, something that exists. Now, even though all truth may not always be provable, the things that are provable are in fact truth. Truth is always objective, meaning that it's independent of the human mind. It's real or actual, and it's uninfluenced by emotions. Truth is not subjective, meaning that it is taking place inside the subjective means if something is taking place inside the human mind rather than in the external world. There's no such thing as subjective truth. It doesn't exist. There's no her truth, his truth, your truth, my truth. There's only one truth, and I'm speaking about universal truth. People's personal beliefs, whether it's their religion, opinions, ideas, or perceptions, are not the truth. I'm going to repeat that. Beliefs are not truth. That's insanely important for any of your viewers that are actually Christian or even Buddhist or Taoist or any religion. Just because you have a specific faith or you believe something, it doesn't automate. Beliefs do not equal truth. Now, it is true that people will have different experiences in life, and it's true that those with shared experiences may perceive them differently from each other. But perception does not equal truth. The things that actually happen to us that we experience in our lives, those are true. That's truth. But the way we think and feel about those experiences, that's our perception. The same thing goes for information that we find online, in a book, in a video, any information that we acquire. We all know that not everything we see, hear, and read is always going to be true. And the way that we perceive certain information should have absolutely no effect on determining whether or not the information is actually true. I'll repeat that. The way that we feel about certain information does not determine whether or not that information is true. I hate that phone. Our feelings and our emotions do not equal truth because that would be subjective. And it's very important that people understand that. And so with that being said, All right, should stop. So, with all that being said, how does one come to determine what is actually true? And the answer is through knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And in that exact order. First, we obtain knowledge about any information. Then we research that information, we compare and contrast it with other information to see if we can determine just how plausible it actually is. That takes discernment. We don't just believe or disregard information depending on how we feel about it. Our emotions should play no part when it comes to determining actual truth. Emotions cloud judgment. And they lead people to either just accepting or rejecting any information based on how they feel about it. If someone has too much emotion invested in a certain information, belief, religion, ideology, um, then they'll actually lack the capacity to obtain any knowledge that counteracts with their emotional state. Second, once we have acquired the knowledge about certain information, we must then understand it. We must learn where it came from and the principles behind it in order to understand the purpose of why it actually exists. If someone has knowledge that they own a car, but they don't understand the purpose of having a car and they also don't understand how to operate it, well, then that car is of no use to them. Knowledge without understanding is useless and it serves no purpose. And third, and the last thing is once we've obtained knowledge that we fully understand, we are then able to incorporate that knowledge into our daily lives and apply it, hence acquiring wisdom. And wisdom is gained through experience. And that's the end of that. I just wanted to briefly cover that just for because I actually thought it was really important because I see a lot of information, even in some of your comments. And some people are like, well, how do you know that's true? How is this true? And I actually thought that was a really great lesson on it's actually it's psychology, how the human mind works. That's how our mind is is set up to determine what's true. Now do you have to remove this or can I?
Are we done with this one and we're going to the
Yeah,
next?
that was it. I just wanted to go. That was just real brief. Now I can go right into Saturn. Mm. All right. All right. We're going to start with the plutonic solids.
By the way, I love how your PowerPoint presentation you use kind of like the I don't know
Like
how.
it looks like an ancient scroll.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I got it from, I use Keynote to make the presentations.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's go. Plutonic solids. All right. The plutonic solids are prominent in the philosophy of Plato, their namesake. Believe it or not, Plato was not the first one to actually discover or to actually coin the plutonic solids, but he is the one that taught it the most. So it is attributed to his name, hence plutonic solids. Plato wrote about them in his dialogue Timaeus in 360 BC, in which he associated each of the four classical elements, earth, air, water, and fire, with a regular solid. Earth was associated with the cube. Air was associated with the octahedron. Water with the I can't read that. Water with the how do you see that?
Icosahedron.
Icosahedron, and fire with the tetrahedron. And this is a little quote from Plato's Timaeus. He wrote, "To the earth, let us assign the cubic form, for the earth is the most immovable of the four and most plastic of all the bodies, and that which has the most stable basis must of necessity be of such nature." So basically, he's saying because the earth of the elements and the planets actually is the most solid. It's the most dense. He attributes that shape to the cube. All right, good. I just made it a little bit bigger. All right. All right. Now, I don't have the whatchamacallit, the Saturn in the slide. Actually, yes, I do. It's in a further slide now that I think about it. All right. A cube in actuality is a three-dimensional representation of a two-dimensional hexagon. A hexagon is a six-sided shape that is derived from a hexagram, which is a six-pointed star that's made up of two interlocking triangles.
Right, the Hebrew Star of David.
Exactly. I'm sure everybody knows what a hexagram is and what a cube is, right? And the hexagram also incorporates the symbols for the masculine and the feminine within it, as well as the symbols for all four of the elements. The symbols also used to represent the Hermetic phrase "as above, so below," and you can see right there each of the elements is fires, the triangle, air, and if you go down the list of each one, you'll see put them all together and they make up a hexagram. And all right. Now, if everyone notices, I still have the little hexagram star with the cube in it at the top. Notice how the three shapes perfectly fit together. Now, this is where 666 comes into play. You have 6 points of the hexagram, the 6 lines of the hexagon, and then the 6 sides of the three-dimensional cube. This is where it gets interesting. Everything about this symbol represents the planet Saturn. The outer star or the hexagram represents Saturn as a planetary deity. Some of the ancients referred to this as, well, the Gnostics referred to this as an archon. According to some ancient Gnostics, Saturn was the chief archon. We discussed what the archons were in a previous video. The chief archon was the demiurge. So, like I said, the outer star or hexagram directly relates to Saturn itself. The inner shape of the hexagon, which is actually the three-dimensional cube, represents Earth and the material realm. The black cube is, as the Gnostics viewed it, the black cube is a literal prison or matrix that Saturn keeps us trapped in. Saturn binds us within a three-dimensional cube, which is also known as the third dimension or Earth. That's why some refer to Earth as a prison planet, because we're bound to this material form, and that's Saturn. Saturn is the god of this world, and he controls and manipulates the desires and the pleasures of the flesh. Saturn has many names. We know him as Osiris in Egypt, El in Phoenicia, Kronos in Greek, which is where actually we get the word chronology from, because he was also known as Father Time. And of course, Satan, among other names. So when people say that the ancient Hebrews or the Jews actually worship Saturn, they say they're Saturn worshippers. It's because they do. They do worship Saturn. The Star of David, which is their hexagram, has always been the star of Saturn. When some Jews wear that little black box on the top of their head, I forget what it's called. I have it in the next slide, so I'll know what it's called then. But when they were that,
Let me read you something that I emailed Santos, and he
yeah,
emailed me back
okay,
because I was like, "Can you give me a brief example of how Saturn is Satan?" I was like, "Can you explain that to me?" And he emailed me back. He said, "Jesus says Satan is the god of this world. Saturn in astrology rules Earth, Capricorn. The Bible says he is the god of the spirit, air of this world. In astrology, Saturn rules air, Libra, Aquarius."
and also we know that, like you said, Saturn is associated with Satan. And the funny thing is, in ancient astrological stories, how Christ is always associated with the sun. In astrotheology, Saturn was always the opposer to the sun. It was one of the furthest away. It was always
Right, that's why the Christians call him the accuser.
Exactly. Oh yeah. So when the Jews wear that little black box on the top of their head, they're paying homage to Saturn.
Well,
To
it's the same thing with the yarmulke. It's a little black hat. It's Saturn.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of the yarmulke. I mainly thought of the other one because it's an actual.
Or like my girl actually messaged me and she was telling me, she asked me why do the Jews wear the big black one, and it's the same thing. It's Saturn.
So they're paying homage to Saturn, the god of this world. And they wear that little black cube on their head. It's the black cube prison that Saturn created for us, that they actually hope to one day rule over this world. That's it. Judaism is it's a very materialistic religion. They don't how most religions, even Christianity, is a tad more spiritual with the, you know, ruling it, or not so much ruling, but eternal life in the heavenly realms. Judaism more so promotes a pleasant physical existence. Basically, wealth. It promotes wealth and prosperity in the earthly realm. They will rule over the earth. That's actually what and it's a satanic. It's a materialistic. It's a satanic mindset. They worship Saturn. All right, here's just a couple examples of how Saturn is plays a part in different religions. The first picture above on the left, you'll see the hexagram displayed on the Pope's mitre. The second picture on the right are depictions of the hexagram found throughout Vatican City. Some are pictures that are on floors, some are pictures on walls, some are pictures on ceilings, but you can see the hexagonal shape everywhere. And then the third picture, of course, is the hexagram displayed on the flag of Israel, otherwise known as the Star of David. All three of these are depicting the hexagram, which is really the star of Saturn.
And the other thing, go back.
Sure. Go ahead.
The Pope's mitre. It's called a mitre. That comes
Yeah.
from Mithraism. That was fish worship.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's the hat of Dagon.
Yeah.
And
there's
guys, if you take the Pope's hat off and you turn it to the side, it's a fish head.
You can't. I can't find too many pictures of these. I think I maybe only found 2 online. I don't have them in this presentation, but some actual mitres that the Popes wear, they'll actually have a little jewel on each side representing the eyes.
The eyeball, yeah.
Yeah, and you turn it, it looks exactly like a fish head. All right, here's just Teflon. Teflon. That's what the little cube is called. These are just random pictures of Saturn worship because it is everywhere. Up top, you'll see the black cube of Saturn. There's the cube in Australia. There's a cube in Denmark. There's a cube in Manhattan. There's a cube in I can't even read the. What does it say? Santana.
There's a cube in Mecca.
Of course, I was going to say. Of course, we know Mecca. There's the friggin' cube in the meditation room at the United Nations. It's everywhere. And then you can see the random pictures on the right are it's the Teflon. It's that little black cube that I was talking about. And apparently what it's for is it says that it's a small leather box and it contains scrolls of parchment inscribed with verses of the Torah. And it's worn by male observant Jews during weekday morning prayers. And then if you see the picture on the left, the bottom left, it says at the top, the big 3 monolithic religions that lead to Saturn. And it's talking about the Abrahamic religions. And then you see in ancient, it says, what is it? Oh, if you can see, it's kind of small and faded, but the North Pole of Saturn, there is a hexagram on the North Pole of Saturn. It was said to be discovered. I'm always a little bit iffy about that because we all know, NASA's a little bit with their pictures and their info, but
Saturn used to be a lot closer to us. They've known about this for a long time.
Yes, it has. All the planets have actually. There's actually a theory. Again, I haven't looked into it too much, but I find it very, very interesting. I'm not sure if your viewers ever heard of the electric universe theory. You've heard of it, correct? Where they say that Saturn was actually our primordial sun. They say Saturn it's a brown dwarf, and the theory behind it is when we were much closer. This is before, again, as Earth ages, as we go through the Earth ages, as it changes, the Earth itself also changes. Our atmosphere wasn't. Let's go back even to the Jurassic, even to the Younger Dryas era and the Jurassic era. The atmosphere is completely different. That's why trees could grow to a gargantuan size. Animals, but everything was bigger. As time progresses, we're shrinking is actually what's happening. But they say when Saturn was closer, when they believed it was our primordial sun, it basically was a brown dwarf, so it did not shine as bright as the sun that we have now does. But what it did was it actually sent a glow over the entire Earth. This is actually what is represented in the Greek and the Roman legend of the Golden Age. They say that Earth was actually it never rained. Earth was actually covered. The atmosphere was covered in a mist. So the light of Saturn shined through that mist, and it almost made like a. They say it was almost like a beautiful violet or purple
Right.
haze.
It's known as Saturn is known as the black sun.
Exactly. But yeah, and that's what they but there was no you could grow food all the time because the weather was always perfect. There was no seasons where you had to worry about like, oh, the the land's going to be dead. I can't grow food. I can't grow crops. Everyone was a vegetarian back then because everything food and the fruits and vegetables and everything grew constantly. There was no seasons. It was like a perfect springtime all the time. So that's the theory behind the golden age anyway. All right, let's get into a little bit about ancient legends of Saturn and different cultures, Saturn mythology. All right, Saturn was Saturn was a god in the ancient Roman religion, a character in the Roman mythology. He was described as a god of time, uh, chronology, chronos, generation, disillusion, abundance, wealth, and agriculture, periodic renewal, and liberation. Saturn's mythological reign was depicted as a golden age uh, of abundance and peace. After the Roman conquest of Greece, he was conflated with the Greek titan Kronos because of the same thing. Saturn's consort was his sister Ops, with whom he fathered Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto, Juno, Ceres, and Vesta. Saturn was especially celebrated during the festival of Saturnalia each December, perhaps the most famous of the Roman festivals. It was a time of feasting, role reversals, free speech, gift giving, and revelry. The Temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum House, the state treasury and archives of the Roman Republic and the early Roman Empire. The planet Saturn, and the day of the week Saturday are both named and associated with the god Saturn.
Right,
And it's funny,
that's why Saturday is the day of rest.
exactly, and they don't say this about, at least in this little in this little article about Saturnalia, but they kind of make it like, oh, it was a lovely time of like feasting and role reversals and that. The reason a lot of people um frown upon the origins of Christmas, aside from the fact that every aside from the fact that every freaking Christian yells pagan, it's a pagan holiday. Yeah, every holiday is a pagan holiday. And that also includes the biblical holy days of the Torah. The what is it? Passover, Pentecost. They actually existed before the Torah, before the Jew. And you know how was it? Passover represents when the Passover is when the Jews were when the plagues passed over the houses in Egypt. Correct? For
Just
the
the one, just the death of the firstborn son.
yeah. Well, that the time that is celebrated, the Judaic or the Hebrew Passover is actually a combination of two Canaanite feast days at the same time. They combined two Canaanite feast days at the same time. They're probably like I think they were around 2 weeks apart, and it was the Canaanite version of the Passover. They just put it together and they put it in with their Judaic stories. But everything has an earlier origin. But anyway, Saturnalia, they make it sound all fun and fun and happy heydays, and it's the actual. It's said that the actual celebration of Saturnalia was debauchery. I mean, they did, like it says, they did,
It was an orgy.
I was just gonna say feasting, roller skiffing. Yeah, it was an all out orgy. Yeah, and they did some wild shit on Saturday night, and it was not only that, it was also not just the orgies, it was drunkenness too. People, it was destructive. You know what I mean? Like things would get out of hand. It was almost it was a very chaotic holiday for the Romans actually. To the ancient Romans, Saturn was the god of time and is traditionally depicted as Father Time. the wise old man with the long gray beard, holding a harvest scythe, or scythe, which is also representational of death. This is where the Grim Reaper comes from, which is represented today as the skeleton dressed in the black hooded robe holding a sickle. Uh, Black robe is a symbol of an initiate of Saturn.
Just like
Though
the judges.
exactly. Mm. Though most people don't realize it, the Roman Catholic Church entails much Saturn worship in its rituals. Roman Catholic priests traditionally wear black robes with a cube-like square on the collar. Both the color black and the cube are both symbols of Saturn. That's not all of the Saturn stuff that goes on in the church, and government. Even what is it? The black marker board for graduation, the black, it's all the court judges. It's all Saturn, and everybody loves this. All the rulers love this world. They love their Saturn. Saturn is portrayed uh in esoteric mythology is I didn't even realize this was in there, as our original sun, where it was fixed in the heavens at Earth's celestial north, and from where it watched over the ancients like the all-seeing eye of God. Mankind's earthly experience can be broken up into golden age, silver age, bronze age, and iron age, or epochs. They are the ages of man. Today we are said to live in the iron age of industry and technology. Before that, we were in the bronze age. The bronze age was the heroic myth. It was the hero age. With Hercules and Perseus and all them, Achilles. Heroic mythology existed, preceded by the Silver Age, born out of chaos that ended that greatest of ages, the mythic paradise known as the Golden Age. Seneca says that the Epigeans who studied astronomy among the Chaldeans, he says he estimates that the planet Saturn exerts the greatest influence upon all the movements of the celestial bodies. An astrological treatise ascribed to Manetho. I remember I covered him. He was the one where I got he recorded the Hyksos Exodus and the Egyptian version of the Exodus. An astrological treatise ascribed to Manetho states that in the beginning, Kronos the Titan ruled the entire ether. His star, the far-seeing gods called the Shining One, and then that's actually also what the Mesopotamians, that was what they called Venus as well. Later on, Venus became known as the Shining One, and the morning star or day star. That was another name for Venus. That's actually what Lucifer is. Lucifer was not the name of a fallen angel. He was in that original story in Ezekiel, I believe, that talks about the Babylonian king. It says, "Oh, Lucifer, how you fell from lightning." That's
That's
actually
actually, I think that's one of the two times Lucifer is mentioned in the Bible.
only once. It's the only time.
It's only
Yeah.
one, right?
Yep. And the funny thing is, it's not mentioned in any Bible until the KJV was written, because the KJV used not only the Hebrew scriptures and the Greek scriptures, but they also used the Latin Vulgate as well to translate the book. And they took in the Catholic Bibles that predated the KJV, Dewey Rames and whatnot, in the Latin Vulgate, when they say that verse, Lucifer, it's not even capitalized; it's a lowercase l. The term Lucifer in Latin, it just means light bearer. That's all. Light bringer or light bearer, and they were talking about Venus. It was the literal planet Venus. Then when they translated to the KJV, they capitalized it, and it, as time went on, it was basically just an entire, not so much a mistranslation, misconception of what that word actually meant. Everybody read it and said, "Oh, that's the name of the fallen angel, Lucifer." No. It was the planet Venus. And when they say, "Oh, how you fell from heaven," it's not even talking about a fallen angel. It was, if you read the earlier chapter, he's what do you call it? He's basically scolding the king of Babylon at the time, and he's using a mythology of Venus to describe the arrogance of the Babylonian king. That's why it says oh, how you fell from the heavens, because in the ancient times, how it was Venus was the not only the brightest star in the night sky, but early in the morning, uh, before the sun will begin to rise, that's when Venus shines the brightest. That's why it's called the
It's
morning
right
star.
above the sun.
Yeah, or the day star. Exactly. That's when it's the brightest. What happens
They
is,
both call themselves the morning star. Well, Venus is literally the morning star because
yeah,
it rises,
exactly.
it's a bright star.
Yeah,
And Jesus
Saturn
called
they call the
himself.
shining one, but yeah, and that's actually where they got Lucifer from. The Hebrew word in the ancient Hebrew text is Hallel, and Hallel means shining one. But the the Greek and Latin translated that instead of shining one, they translated that to light bringer, also day star or morning star. So they attribute Venus to the morning star, but the reason that was that whole allegory was even brought up with Venus is because it was said uh when Venus would shine the brightest um early in the morning, what would happen is as the sun would rise, the unconquerable sun, the light from the sun would start to blot out Venus. And they describe that as Venus being cast out of heaven and falling down to the ground of earth because he couldn't shine anymore. He wasn't or Venus wasn't capable to overpower the sun.
Think about this for a second, Lisa.
Hmm.
Genesis 1:3, the very beginning of the Bible.
Hmm.
God says, "Let there be light." How is he going to bring light without the light bringer, the light bearer?
I actually never thought of that. I just whenever I think of "Let There Be Light," you know what? I automatically think of the sun at first, but that's actually a really good point. I never thought of that. But that's where that whole oh Lucifer, how you fell from lighting. No, it's Venus. It was the ancient myth of as the sun would rise, the sun would conquer Venus, and he would cast him out of heaven. He would cast him down to
You know,
earth.
it's funny because I got a lot of people giving me shit because I'm a Freemason, right? And they tell me, "Oh, Albert Pike talks about Lucifer in his book."
Hmm.
Albert Pike mentioned Lucifer in two sentences, and he was talking about Venus. He assumed that you knew what you were talking about when you read his work.
Manly P. Hall.
Same thing.
Seething powers of Lucifer will be in your hands when you understand that. Not I love Manly P. Hall. But it's funny. Um, different different teachings in Freemaker, because I know, again, depending on where you get the information from, I found different sources, but with different slightly different teachings in Freemasonry, because it's like any other belief system. There's multiple ways to view it or to perceive it. But some of them actually, the term Lucifer, uh they're referring to the the energy essence of that's actually what Manly P. Hall was talking about. It was the energy essence of Venus.
Mhm.
Those Freemasons that subscribe more to like like Helena Blavatsky, she associated Lucifer as not even so much a she claimed that basically the fallen angels were Venusians. They were from Venus, but not so much like alien beings falling from Venus. It was pretty much described as Lucifer. It was the soul essence of the planet Venus, and the planets were beings. So yeah, that's kind of how it all went together. But yeah, but they're describing the energetic essence of Venus in what is it in Pike and Manly P. Hall.
Mhm.
That's what that's all about. Uh, this is a good one. So I'm gonna move on with Saturn real quick. Sorry, I got sidetracked with Venus briefly. Saturn is representational in the actions of in the actions of binding, uh, chastening, crystallizing, hardening, hindering, limiting, magnetism, obstruction, retarding, and suppression. Uh, I underline this for a reason. If the forces of Saturn seek to constrain, break down, and later harden, then it would follow that this process relates to the descent and the crystallization of spirit into matter or consciousness into the organic material body. Saturn, so active in the cosmic changes, was regarded by all mankind as a supreme god. The most important part of everything I read in the paragraph above is crystallization of spirit into matter. And here's why. So I looked it up, what a crystal structure is. In crystallography, crystal structure is a description of the ordered arrangements of atoms, ions, and molecules in crystalline material. Ordered structures occur from the intrinsic nature of the constituent particles to form symmetric patterns that repeat along the principal directions of three-dimensional space in matter. They're actually called crystal lattices, is how they form together. So from that, I'm going to jump to, because it's another version of the cube, Metatron's cube. Metatron's cube, you hear a lot about and in the new age culture, which I think they actually yeah, it's funny because the new age is really like a lot of the old age teachings of the old age. Mm. And they
Metatron, for you guys who don't know who Metatron is if you read the Bible, you'll read the story of Enoch, or not the story of Enoch, because the book of Enoch's not in the Bible. It's in the Ethiopian Bible, but it's not in the regular.
it's an apocrypha, yeah.
Enoch was the first person taken to heaven alive. In the Bible, they say he lived X amount of years, and then he was not. Because usually in the Bible, they tell you he lived X amount of years, and then he had a child at this year, and then he died at this age. But they'll tell you in Enoch that he was brought up to heaven directly. When he gets brought up to heaven, he evolves into Metatron.
Mm-hmm.
So Metatron is just Enoch.
And it's funny too because Metatron, like I said, is mentioned a lot in the New Age beliefs, and even though the New Age is basically a rebranding of the Old Age religion, um, I'm not a fan of New Age. I'll say New Age religions or New Age ideologies, um, because they again they butchered them. They took some like they took a lot of like ancient spiritual teachings, and all of a sudden you have 275 ascendant masters, and you have Metatron and Saint Germain. They kind of just most belief systems conflate different stories together. The New Age kind of separated them into uh 700 different spiritual archetypes, and and a lot of it's horseshit the way they portray it, but what are you gonna do? They want to sell their books and crystals. All right, Metatron's cube, the history of Metatron. Now, what actually, if you look at the shapes above, what's really fascinating about Metatron's cube is every one of the plutonic shapes
Fits
is
into it.
exactly. The tree of life also fits into it. You can see everything is perfectly aligned. The circles and the shapes, it's all connected. It represents the physical universe as a whole. The history of Metatron's cube. The term Metatron first appeared in the Kabbalistic and the Talmud text of Judaism, and it's said to be the name of an archangel. I'm sorry, of an angel or guardian. In Jewish legends and myths, it's said that this angel created the cube out of his soul. Metatron's cube represents all the geometric shapes found in all of creations, and is associated with the belief that the god is the geometer of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Metatron's cube is closely related to sacred geometry. It is sacred geometry, basically, which has existed in many forms throughout history. The term geometry was derived from the Greek words geos and metron. That means earth. Geos is earth, and metron is to measure. So it's the measurements of the earth, respectively. It simply refers to the study of the shapes and mathematical formulas that can be found in nature. It's said that the practice originates from old civilizations, including the Sumerians, Egyptians, Phoenicians, Minoans, and the Greeks. Sacred geometry was an art that was traditionally restricted to, remember we talked about this, it was restricted to the priesthood and was therefore called sacred. It was believed that the things were created according to specific geometric plan. It's Saturn's plan, and the study of the sacred geometry would uncover the secrets of creation. And it does. Metatron's cube contains the most common shapes in nature, including circles and lines. Technically, it features 13 circles held together by straight lines from the midpoint of each circle. There's a central circle surrounded by 6 circles forming a flower-like shape and another set of 6 circles extending from it. The series, and there you can see all the circles and the lines connecting it. The series of connected lines form various shapes called the plutonic solids. Now, this is how the plutonic solids ties into Metatron's cube. We're going from right to the beginning to the end. We're going to put it together. The plutonic solids are said to be the basis for every design in the universe. Some of these shapes are the pyramids, the cubes, the octahedron, the dodecahedron, and the I can't ever say this.
Icosahedron.
Icosahedron. I always want to say isocahedrons. I mix the S and the C. Icosahedron. These geometrical shapes appear repeatedly and randomly in nature, which made the ancient Greeks associate them with the 5 elements. And then I put here each one of the 5 shapes that represents the plutonic solids can be seen within Metatron's cube. Notice that the outer shape is a hexagon. Okay, you can see it if you look. You can see that the star, the hexagon, which in turn forms the cube, just like the star of Saturn. And if you actually look close, you can see a cube within a cube, and you can see that the hexagram surrounding it. And if you go to the outer points of the star, of course, the cube also makes a hexagon. Everything is one thing. It's all connected. It's amazing. This is the best part. Are you ready to have your mind blown? Remember earlier I said that Saturn was responsible for the crystallization of spirit into matter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, every single plutonic shape that is found within Metatron's cube, which is Saturn's cube, can be found within the atomic structure of every single molecule that makes up all forms of physical matter, including human DNA. Now, below on the left, that's a computer representation. It's a crystalline structure of human DNA. Then on the right, this is from 1953. It's DNA. This is the basis, actually, of the beginning of how they start to map DNA, of DNA sequencing. Was it Rosalind Franklin's crystallography? It was called. It was the precursor to finding the model for the DNA strand, and you can see all the little hexagonal shapes. It's formed, like I said earlier, it's forming a crystal lattice.
That's a legit picture of DNA.
Hmm?
That's a legit picture of DNA.
Oh, you mean the like fuzzy one?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say the other one is the golden one is a model that they built. But yes, here's where it gets good. So these are digitally enhanced structures of DNA taken under an electron microscope. The colors and the shapes are digitally added to get a more clear picture of what DNA strands look like. You can see now the one on the left is from it's from a top-down view of a DNA strand, and you can see again these are what they call a crystal lattice. Everything in matter, not just crystals and stones are not just crystals and stones have a crystalline form. Everything, every form of matter, everything that exists is formed through they call it a crystal lattice structure, because all solids are considered a crystalline structure. Like I said, crystallization is basically it's the lattice structural form of physical matter. So that's why they call them crystalline structures. So the one on the left is from the top down, and then the one on the right is a side view, very, very much digitally enhanced. This is the best one. This is very hard for me to find, actually. This is a photograph of real DNA taken under a high resolution microscope. The picture on the left is DNA from a plant, and the picture on the right is DNA from a human. And I don't know if it's yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I can't zoom in to make it bigger for people. I don't know how to. But if you look really close, you can see the lattice structures in human DNA. So, were the ancients actually, is that Saturn's purpose in the universe? Were the ancients actually correct? Does Saturn take um does Saturn take energetic consciousness? Does it actually take spirit and crystallize it and break it down and form it into DNA, crystallize it, and then that becomes the atoms and the molecules
Mm-hmm.
that form these lattice structures that make up everything. Saturn is Saturn is the true God. Again, he is not. It is not the all. It is not the absolute. It's not. It's not the what do you call it? It's not the pleroma. It's not the void. It's not everything before everything was. But Saturn is the god of this world. It is, or at least it is said to be responsible for creating physicality, for creating the physical realm. Um, so whether or not that's 100% accurate, um, I don't know. We'll probably never know because how do you test Saturn? But that is this is actually how the ancients science scientifically explained creation. It was Saturn's doing. Saturn was this good because in every culture, it's whether or not it has a different name, it's the same damn deity that they're all worshiping. Whether it's Osiris or Kronos or Saturn or El, they're all Saturn, which which I find absolutely fascinating. I don't do you can you exit this or do I exit it?
You're done with this?
I am.
All right, hold on.
So yeah, I found that astonishing. When I actually looked at when I actually looked close at the high resolution image of the human DNA, because it's one thing when you see like the models of the DNA structure, and even under the electron microscope, how it was a lot of that's digitally enhanced, and it's so you can see more clear what things would or should look like.
Mm-hmm.
But an actual microscopic image of it, to zoom in and actually see the crystalline lattice structures, I found that astonishing. So because it's amazing that they knew this, you know what I mean, that they knew this information. And so that's the story of how, again, if you for the Gnostics to view Saturn as the demiurge, that's actually what he did in their ancient religion. That's what the demiurge did. He took he took spirits, he took spiritual consciousness, spiritual beings, and he caught them and he bound them and he trapped them into physical bodies. He made them matter. That's what the demiurge did. And yeah, I find that astonishing. Now there's again, like any other religion or belief system, there's different sects of Gnosticism. um I tend to kind of I tend to go with the more of um the the Neoplatonistic view of it, whereas it's not so much because the Gnostics very much viewed Saturn or the demiurge as evil, as the enemy. He was Satan to them. He was the enemy. Whereas the Neoplatonistic view is Saturn. They viewed Saturn as, again, even though it does bind and trap spirits in this realm, they viewed it more as a necessary purpose, as a necessary purpose of the cosmos. If you look at if you understand that the cosmos is what they say, a school for the soul. It's for the everything's for the evolution of the soul. It's a solar system. Um, but the Neoplatonists view it more as a necessary purpose, even though it's again, because he's the lesson teacher. Um, so it's kind of like, how would higher souls, because again, everything goes in a circle, everything goes up, down, and up again. So we descend into matter and we ascend back out of matter, just like Christ. So he even descended into, in order to go up, you have to go down first. So the theory behind it is that souls and souls in higher dimensions, they don't know they don't know what the difference between good and evil, because there's no evil there. They can't experience that duality. So it's unlearned to them. So in order to advance to a further, even higher realm, they have to experience that. They have to experience it, and they have to be able to conquer it. That's one of the things that Saturn does. Even though its purpose is to teach a lesson, um, it tends to people get, or I should say, souls get stuck here. They get they start. We don't have a memory of where we once came from, but this is the material realm is very it's like a it's like a shiny little toy that people that don't want, it gains our focus, and people don't want to let go of it. That's how it binds us here. And a lot of time, and it's a very long, and or it's described as a very long and arduous process, for especially if certain souls have to keep reincarnating over and over again if they don't, if you don't get it right. And most souls don't get it right, and you also have to work off your karma when you're here as well. And it's funny, like, a lot of people think like working off karma is like you have to reincarnate over and over and over again. And the funny thing that a lot of people don't realize is unless you're like, you know some of the psychopaths that rule the world, and you're doing some really, you know heinous shit in this realm, most of the karma that we put out while we're here, a lot of it we actually get back within this lifetime, but like while we're still here. Anything that we do, it's just not, in other words, like, if I if I was married, I cheated on someone, that's a wrong thing to do. Or if I did something to hurt somebody, that exact same thing is not going to happen to me. The the essence, or the legend, the type of feeling that I if I wrong somebody else, how I made them feel, that feeling in some way, shape, or form is going to come back on me. It's not going to be the exact same thing. Like, if somebody, if you kill someone and if you're drinking and driving, and you're drunk behind the wheel, and you run somebody over and kill them, that doesn't mean you're going to get hit by a drunk driver too. You know what I mean? It just means what you did, how you wrong somebody and the people they affected in some way, shape, or form, that's going to come back on you. It's not everything. That's why it's very hard for people to, I wouldn't necessarily say understand, but let's say track. Karma is really not trackable. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it manifests in many different ways and forms, but a lot of it does come back to us while we're still here. Anything that doesn't, we reap what we sow. Whatever anything that did not come back on us while we're still here, we will experience in the next life.
Mhm.
uh where Depending on where that is, I don't know. Some people incarnate back to earth in the physical realm, um or and I actually always wondered that, because I never can't find a lot of information on that, about let's for instance how the what do you call it, how the Christian religions believe, or Christianity, I should say, believes in, eternal hell and eternal damnation. That's not true. There's I won't say, like a lot of people say, there's no hell. There is no such thing as eternal damnation. Nothing is eternal. Nothing. Everything is a constant cyclical process. Even outside of the physical realm, even in the other dimensions, in the spirit planes, in the higher dimensions, they're evolving as well as everything is constantly moving. Nothing is eternal. Nothing stays. The only thing that's eternal is if you go all the way back to source, and then then that would probably end up starting over again in some way, shape, or form if it so chose. But there's no eternal damnation for the souls that do, like I said, that do a lot of really heinous shit while they're here. And I'm talking of people that like rapists, or people that child sacrifice, stuff, really bad stuff. Um, what will happen, at least from my understanding, is that if they don't come back to the physical plane in some way, shape, or form, where they will go, it's not like it's described like, oh, a lake of fire and torment, but they will go somewhere, whether it's physical or not, I don't know, but they will have to suffer the consequences of their actions while they were here. Once they paid that price, they're done. If they incarnate, let's say if it's back into a physical realm, then yeah, it might take an entire another lifetime for the repercussions and the consequences of their actions
Mhm.
to unfold,
Mhm.
for their karmic consequences. If it's in a non-physical realm, um again, I don't know this for sure, but if it's in a non-physical realm, I would assume once they're punished, once their time is like a prison sentence, let's say, once their time is served, then, at least this is from my understanding, if they're in a non-physical realm, a hellish realm, let's say, once their time is served, once their prison sentence is up, they get a chance to redeem it. They basically come back to a physical existence. They get another chance to redeem themselves. No souls are damned for eternity. That would that would defeat the entire purpose of the evolution of the soul. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything eventually, what hermetic principle is that? What hermetic principle is that? Everything eventually comes back. Everything eventually comes back to source. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, everything eventually will come full circle. Everything will end up back where it
Mhm.
belongs. Um, but
So,
yeah.
Lisa, we're coming up on an hour now,
Oh, okay,
and
sweet.
I wanted to thank you for coming on. Let me pitch an idea to you. Let me know. How do you feel? Because I like the way you make your presentations.
Yeah, cool.
How do you feel about next time you coming on? We'll go over Blavatsky and Crowley.
Great. Yeah, I actually, it's funny, I never bring up Crowley that much. But yeah, I like Blavatsky's work. I'm I'm a huge fan, even more so than Blavatsky. And I said this before, I'm a huge Rudolf Steiner fan. But yeah, Blavatsky and Crowley, they're again, it's all they're more, how should I put it? I want to say closely related, but their information is more similar, I'd say.
Mhm.
But actually, Rudolf Steiner is pretty similar to Thalema as well. But yeah, I love it.
All right. So thank you, Lisa. Tell everyone where they could find you if you're interested, and we'll set up a time for next time.
Great. Again, I don't have like a YouTube channel or a website or anything like that. I basically I basically just tell people this stuff on your channel. But again, I just do a lot of a lot of times the way I get information on is, like I said, I'll go on different forums and I'll just like randomly present stuff like this, depending on the I gauge the audience first, because some people, I don't want to give anybody a stroke. Um
Mhm.
but yeah, like I said, if it's like a Christian forum, I can't just come out with this information. I kind of like drizzle it, give like little drops at a
Mhm.
time. But yeah, um But yeah, I actually thought that I figured your viewers would absolutely would love this information. It blew my mind when I saw that the actual the cube structure of Saturn is actually imprinted on our DNA. That's mind blowing to me.
It is.
You know.
Mhm. So, Lisa, I want to thank you for coming on. I'm going to put this up right away. I'll send you a link, okay?
Excellent.
Thank you for everything today. This was very important. I wanted to get this out.
Good. I'm glad. I hope everybody enjoys it.
Yes. Thank you, Lisa.